here we go. Sports!
I listen to you guys all the time.
It's awesome.
I'm in the mood for one of your classic anecdotes.
Give yourselves a round of applause.
All right, that's enough. Hey guys, there is someone I want you to meet.
Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun on Off the Hook Sports. Represented by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com, Tennessee's trial attorney from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studio, East Tennessee's #1 volume and customer service dealer, Ted Russell Ford and TedRussellLincoln.net.
I mean, look, we're all part of the same team here.
Now to the Dave Hooker Show on Off the Hook Sports.
Sit with us for the next hour and a half, 2 hours, depending on how long we go with Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. Tennessee football is the topic, as UAB this week does not garner a lot of excitement, but this Tennessee football team should. Caleb Calhoun, before we bring on our very special guest each and every Wednesday, how are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you doing, Dave?
I'm fantastic. And let's bring on Jimmy Himes, Hall of Famer, joining us now. Looking great as always. Jimmy, how are you, sir?
Dave, I'm doing great. Hope you are as well, Caleb.
Yep, we're both great. Well. And Jimmy, you have grown into more and more of a contributor in Off the Hook Sports. I can't tell you how much we appreciate that and appreciate your columns. I don't call them blogs. I know you still do, because to me, it's a column, it's an article, and you do an incredible job, and we are pleased to have your work a couple, 3-4 times a week even, and I can't tell you how much that means. So thanks for being a part of the game plan here.
Well, I appreciate that. I actually prefer to call them columns, but everybody else told me they were blogs, so I'll go back to columns.
Yeah.
By the way, I just sent one to Caleb, so you'll have the ability to post one pretty soon after the show.
All right, good stuff. Okay. All right, let's get off and rolling here. Jimmy, today's tough question is brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com, the show represented by Banks & Jones. And it's this. Did Josh Heupel avoid some due criticism in how he handled the Nico Iamaleava situation? And it leads me to a column that's on offthehooksports.com right now. And please hit like and subscribe. And that is, I believe that he mishandled the situation almost to the same point that the Iamaleava family did. They just looked a lot worse. And my contention is, if he does this moving forward with spending so much on a quarterback that he's going to make look better because of his offense, he could paint himself into a corner. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, first off, I thought he handled the Nico Iamaleava situation the way he should have. I praised him at the time that he did it. I didn't think Iamaleava deserved $4 million. I thought he was overrated. I thought he overplayed his hand. And I thought he was an average or slightly above average quarterback who did not deserve a significant raise. So I thought he handled it well. And now in retrospect, it looks brilliant, doesn't it? Because Aguilar's better than Nico. So I didn't have the criticism of Heupel at that time. I thought he did the right thing. The other part of that is that if he had paid Nico all that money, he'd have about 30 other football players knocking on his door saying, "Where's mine?" And Tennessee didn't have the money. And I thought that would have created a lot of dissension within the team.
Let me clarify. I want to go back. I'm talking about him placing that much of an emphasis on the quarterback position and saying, I've got to get this top flight prospect who's an NFL style body. I think Joey Aguilar has proven by his deep ball touch, by his ability to read defenses, that he is a more suitable quarterback, and you got him for a much, much cheaper price in retrospect. That's what I was criticizing.
Yeah, you did. I thought it was really interesting. I was watching Nick Saban on game day from Knoxville, and he made the comment that Joey Aguilar is the perfect fit for Tennessee's offense. So I'm thinking, why would Saban say that? What was your sample size? You had a blowout against ETSU, which doesn't count, and you had a nice performance against Syracuse. I've got to think somebody within the Tennessee program told Saban, this guy's the perfect fit. And he looks to be the perfect fit. I wouldn't have said the perfect fit until after the Georgia game, because I didn't think you could glean that much information based on his first two contests. but I do think he's been a tremendous fit for this offense. I do remember also from Josh Heupel saying this multiple times, anybody that would listen after Nico left, we will have a quarterback ready to play. Now, I will admit I was a little bit skeptical of that because who was Joey Aguilar? What had he done other than lead the nation in interception at Appalachian State his last year? And I realized in his career, he had thrown for over 10,000 yards counting junior college. But I wasn't sure Aguilar would play at this level. So I give them a lot of credit for helping develop him and also probably running plays that suit him. I mean, this is a guy that didn't even get to go through spring practice, right?
Right.
My expectations were that he won't be as good as Nico was, but he needs to be close to as good. Well, so far he's been better.
Great.
Well, so Jimmy, I want to add to that, particularly to Dave's column, because this has been something I've been on for a couple of years now. And I actually had a column about a month ago. I said, no matter what happens this fall, Josh Heupel loses, because if Tennessee does well, I mean, if Tennessee performs poorly, if Joey Aguilar is terrible, Josh Heupel's in trouble because Tennessee struggled. But if he performs well, then you start to ask the question on how Josh Heupel is evaluating quarterbacks. And we already had this question. And how many times are we going to let Josh Heupel get away with not knowing who the best quarterback for his own offense is? That seems like it's a problem that goes back to his UCF days. I mean, Nico was not a fit for the offense and Joey Aguilar was? Why do we have to keep seeing this from Josh Heupel, that he goes after quarterbacks that don't fit his offense?
Okay, in fairness, Aguilar wasn't on the roster. So it's hard to say he didn't know which quarterback was better.
I mean, opening up the checkbook for a quarterback, for a guy like Nico to begin with, which Josh Heupel pushed for in 2022.
That's true. And there were a lot of other people that were doing the same thing. Here's another thing, too. Before this season, who was considered the Heisman Trophy favorite? Arch Manning. Did Texas absolutely blow it on Arch Manning? Or is he going to come around and be really good? I think the bigger indictment, not so much on Nico, because he was highly touted, and he's talented. He just doesn't fit the system. And I think it's also hard to judge how quickly a quarterback is going to be a decision maker or how well he can read a defense. I think that's hard to do. But my bigger indictment would be, why did you start Joe Milton over Hendon Hooker in 2021? That's the one that's the red flag to me, more so than misevaluating Nico. So that would be my take on it. But on the flip side of that, you look at it and say, well, he doesn't know who the best quarterback is. Well, he's got Aguilar playing at a very high level, and he had Hooker playing at a very high level. So you could counter the misevaluation with, he certainly got a lot out of Hooker and Aguilar so far.
No, I agree with that. I agree with that. Go ahead, Caleb.
Yeah, and I was going to let you guys jump in, but I can also that's 0 for 2 on those to me, going all out to try to get Nico and wanting Joe Milton over Hendon Hooker. But 0 for 3, we're forgetting this 2019 at UCF. He started Brandon Wimbush over Dylan Gabriel. I mean, that's really, like, from Joe Milton and Brandon Wimbush, that's 2 big misses in a short sample size career for Josh Heupel as a head coach.
Okay. Truth be known, I didn't remember that. So
yeah, I think he got us on that one.
You got me on that one. Huh?
Youth speaks to that. Adam leads me to my point that I get to in the column. We've kind of danced around a little bit. The better price cannot be overstated. Someone is going to win a championship by spending more wisely than those who spend the most eventually. Now, eventually there's going to be a salary cap, but I don't think that third-party spending is going to be limited because of antitrust laws. I just don't see how that's American. But there is going to be a finite money, whether it's 1 million, 10 million, 100 million to spend. And I would rather have a Jermod McCoy. I'm just picking a cornerback out. It could be an Albert Hainsworth, a good defensive tackle, and take my chances with quarterback play knowing Josh Heupel is my head coach, as opposed to spending a bunch of money on a quarterback that's name rhymes with Uncle Rico.
Well, let's ask Oregon about spending money, because Mike Gundy certainly did. And I loved Oregon's response. Dan Lanning said, we spend to win. That's what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to make good evaluations. You're also going to have to get fortunate, okay? And I'm going to say fortunate from this perspective with Tennessee. Nobody knew Jermod McCoy was going to be that good.
No.
Wasn't he a 3-star coming out of college?
Yeah.
I mean, high school?
Hmm.
And he was a good player at Oregon State, but nobody thought he would be an All-American his first year. So you got to have some hits. I almost think, David, it might be a little bit like the NFL where you're like the Commanders, the Washington Commanders have a rookie contract with an excellent quarterback. So you better strike now. You better strike whenever you don't have to overpay or pay a ton of money for a quarterback. And then you can fill out the rest of your roster by paying handsomely to get really good players and surrounding that quarterback with very good talent. So you've got a window with a Jaden Daniels. You got a window with some other good young quarterbacks like Bo Nix at Denver. So in college, you need to do the same. You need to not spend $4 million or more on a quarterback if you can get away with it and supplement that roster with other really good players.
Caleb, anything else on this topic? Then I'm going to throw Jimmy a curveball.
Yeah, so what we're saying is if Josh Heupel were owner of the Commanders in 2012, he would have done exactly what Dan Snyder did, which was trade his entire next 5 years worth of NFL draft picks for a quarterback and then never be able to put anything around him. Because that's what it seems like Josh Heupel does. He goes all out for the quarterback and then, oh, geez, I can't put anybody around him, which is why Nico had no receivers to throw to last year.
Well, that's only 1 year. It's only 1 year that they paid a lot of money for a quarterback.
But it does feel like Josh Heupel falls in love with the quarterback more than everywhere else he needs a guy. And he spends way too much time trying to get the quarterback. And also, again, I want to take it a step further. He doesn't just fall in love with the quarterback. He falls in love with the big arm. I mean, Josh Heupel definitely would have drafted Jamarcus Russell first, too.
No, wait a minute. Lane Kiffin didn't want him.
That's true, but I trust Lane Kiffin's talent evaluation a lot more than Josh Heupel's to this point.
Well, now I have a question about that too, because I remember when Lane Kiffin was here and they turned down, what was his name? Cam Newton.
Yes.
How was that evaluation? And he put his stock in this quarterback from California that ended up not being any good. His name, I can't even remember. He wasn't any good.
Jesse
So I'm sitting
Scroggins,
there thinking, I'm sorry?
Was it Jesse Scroggins? Was that his name?
I think that's who it was. From California, he ended up playing at a California school. So I think Lane has had some hiccups along the way also. The
Cam Newton story, for the record, I was told they showed up at Blinn Community College and he was suspended for a first half and they couldn't take a quarterback with morality issues, which in retrospect with that crew looks a little ironic.
Are you familiar with the initials BS?
Yes.
So
I'm just telling you what I was told.
Well, I'm telling you what I was told by Ed Orgeron. He doesn't fit our system. That's what Ed Orgeron directly told me. He doesn't fit our system. And Ed Orgeron probably had as much say about personnel as Lane Kiffin when he was at Tennessee. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
But I will tell you, that's what he told me. He doesn't fit our system, to which the offensive coordinator, Jim Chaney, said he doesn't fit what? So there was a difference of opinion on quarterbacks from Chaney to that particular staff. I do remember that.
I was told by Lane that Chaney went to Blinn and that he was suspended for the first half. Now it sounds like a makeup story because they did pass on him. But let me ask you this. Okay, go ahead, Caleb.
If Lane was trying to force that USC pro-style offense, that wouldn't have worked with Cam Newton. Cam Newton can't just line up under center and spread the field and make throws. You got to use his mobility, and Lane was never big on using quarterback's mobility back then. He is now, but he wasn't back then in 2009.
And you should be able to adjust, right?
He's
with
no
a
David
with a talent like that.
Auburn adjusted and won a national championship.
They also had Gus Malzahn, but whose system was perfect for Cam Newton.
Yeah. Today's tough question is Josh Heupel avoided some due criticism on the Nico Iamaleava situation. I'm talking going way, way back, not just this year. Today's tough question brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. banksandjones.com. Joey Aguilar is 5th in the BetMGM Heisman odds. What the H?
What the H?
Wow, I never worked hard on anything. What a cool life.
For real? The Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun. Represented by T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com. Tennessee's trial attorney. From the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studio, East Tennessee's #1 volume and customer service dealer. Ted Russell Ford and TedRussellLincoln.net. Now to the Dave Hooker Show on Off the Hook Sports.
When all is said and done, Joey Aguilar will finish 5th in the Heisman voting. You have a vote, Jimmy. I do as well. I have trouble having him 5th, but we've got a lot of football left to play, so I'm not ruling it out. What are your thoughts on Joey Aguilar being 5th in the Heisman odds, according to BetMGM?
Well, it's way, way too early for this type of conversation. However, if I look around, how many other quarterbacks have played better than Aguilar so far? It hasn't been Arch Manning. It hasn't been Garrett Nussmeier. It hasn't been some of the other favorites. Heck, Taylor Green and John Mateer have played better than those other 2 quarterbacks I just mentioned. And certainly it's not DJ Langway, right? 5 interceptions against LSU.
Wow.
I don't have a huge problem with him being in the conversation right now. Will he be in that conversation in November? I don't know. It depends on how the team does. It depends on if he continues to play really well. He has shocked me with how well he has performed. I didn't see that coming against Georgia. I wrongly predicted that being a low-scoring game. If Tennessee could only score, 13 or 17 points with Hendon Hooker in that offense, then I'm thinking Tennessee's going to score about 17, no better than that against Georgia. And yet they scored 21 in the first quarter. So I give him a lot of credit. I can understand the euphoria about him and about him being ranked that high. But it's like trying to crown a national champion in football right now. You mentioned it, there's a long way to go, but I can understand people putting him in that conversation.
Jimmy, given the stuff, I think where the hype is coming is the way he looked against Georgia and the fact that he looks like the best fit for Tennessee's offense since Hendon Hooker, who would have been in New York were it not for the injury in November. I want to know if you think that, to me, the key for Aguilar going forward, though, is you got to see him on the road. We've talked about Josh Heupel on the road. He has a bad track record in road games with that offense. And I'll tell you up front, I said something crazy before the start of the year. I said Tennessee was more likely to beat Georgia than they were Mississippi State in the month of September because I saw that Mississippi State game circled it as a dangerous game. What do you think of me saying I will reserve judgment on Aguilar as a Heisman contender until I see him at Mississippi State, the first road game for Tennessee?
I think that's fair. Now, I would have never said what you said, that Mississippi State's got a better chance of beating Tennessee than Georgia. I never would have thought or said that. That shows great insight on your part, Caleb. Really good.
I mean, This is a team that beat Alabama in 2022 at home and then lost at South Carolina.
Which I think was a better team than this one, the Mississippi State. And that South Carolina team had a red-hot quarterback in that particular game. Could Blake Shapen do that for Mississippi State? It's possible. I do think his ability to perform well on the road. And by the way, Gunnar Stockton performed extremely well in Neyland Stadium, and I didn't see that coming. I'm looking at first-year starters on the road in hostile environments, and most of them don't play as well as that guy did. I thought he was outstanding, as was Aguilar. But yes, Aguilar needs to play well on the road, needs to play well at Mississippi State, and they need to win games. You're not going to win a Heisman Trophy if you're 8-4. You got to be at least 9-3, which was, I'm trying to remember, was LSU 9-3 when Jaden Daniels won it?
I believe they were, and I think the same with Louisville when Lamar Jackson won it. I think both were 9-3.
So there are a couple of examples. If you put up monster numbers and you're just brilliant, then you can win it. I don't think anybody can get there at 8-4. But if he plays well on the road, and by the way, I do expect him to play well on the road. But Mississippi State, we can't forget, and I know you're pointing to this, they beat Arizona State, which was a college football playoff team last year. Not only that, they pressed Texas. They almost upset Texas. That was a really good football game. They had a lot of players coming back except the running back, Scatterboo. So I do think Aguilar needs to play well at Mississippi State. And if he does, and if Tennessee wins that game and they're 4-1, then you'll continue to hear Aguilar in the conversation for the Heisman.
Do me a favor, hit that like button, a thumbs up. Lets us bring more people in on the conversation. We greatly appreciate that. If you haven't subscribed, do that as well. Jimmy, let's talk Joey Aguilar for a second. Fifth, as we mentioned in the Heisman voting, I have trouble coming across as anything but nitpicking to criticize any of his play this year. I think that he has just performed fantastically well, even though there were times I had questions about some of the play calling and some of the game management. I have trouble finding anything that he could have done better this season. You?
Yeah, I do. It'd be nitpicking. He had a bit of a lull after his brilliant first quarter against Georgia when he was 3 of 11 for 26 yards in like the second quarter leading into the end of the third quarter before he threw the long touchdown pass to Brazel. But what impresses me was that after he did have that lull, a lot of quarterbacks don't come back from that. And he did. He responded. The last play of the third quarter for him and into the fourth quarter, he was outstanding when it also mattered. And when Georgia took a lead, he drove Tennessee right down the field to give them an opportunity for a game-winning field goal. So, I'm sorry, when Georgia tied it late, 38-0. So those are things that I really like about him. And I remember asking Josh Heupel before the season, it was in Destin at the SEC spring meetings, what do you like about Aguilar? He said he is very accurate throwing over the middle and with the deep ball, which had been a problem for Tennessee in the previous 2 years. He also talked about his toughness. And that toughness is physical toughness and mental toughness. So, yeah, I like Aguilar, and I think he's been terrific so far for Tennessee.
To your point, Jimmy, one of the interesting things that was broken down analytically was that the faster Tennessee ran, the better Aguilar was on Saturday. When they ran tempo, he was much faster. My one concern, though, is I want to know your thoughts on this. Is part of Heisman trophies for quarterbacks are moments. You know, we talk about Cam Newton, that comeback against Alabama was his moment to get the Heisman. How's Joey Aguilar going to get a moment if Josh Heupel is going to take the game out of his hands when it matters? Because as we saw last Saturday, Tennessee has the ball up 35-30, and what does Josh Heupel do? Run it 3 times and settle for the long field goal, which I thought was very scared and against Heupel's instincts, and typical Josh Heupel wouldn't do that. If he does that all season, Aguilar's never going to get his Heisman moment, is he?
Well, I'll flip that. If Gilbert makes that 43-yard field goal, we're talking about what a great rally he had in the fourth quarter to help Tennessee beat Georgia on a touchdown drive of I don't know how many yards, 13 plays, whatever it was. So Gilbert kind of hurt in that regard. I do agree, and to me the biggest mistake Heupel made, and he even admitted it afterward, that he should have been more aggressive after the strip sack fumble. They had an illegal procedure right off the bat, and so he saw the negative. We can't take another negative play. We can't have another penalty. You can't think like that. You got to go for the jugular. And I understand, well, if you get an 8-point lead, then they cannot win in regulation. I get that. But I still believe if you score a touchdown there, and there's no guarantee you would have scored a touchdown if you were more aggressive, but I still think you should have been more aggressive, and you should have tried to score a touchdown to make it a 2-possession lead, which if you get, I'm convinced you win that football game.
General Ursus says this: Aguilar showed Saturday he can't be rattled on the big stage for the first time and didn't even flinch. Aguilar will be fine on the road. I just get a feeling this team won't choke on the road. I agree with that. Maybe that's being too optimistic, but I tend to agree with that. I think that was a big stage. If you're going to choke in Starkville, you're going to choke against the other Bulldogs on Saturday, and he did not do that. That, to me, his mental toughness is something you alluded to earlier. That may be the biggest difference between him and Nika.
Yeah, well, I think that could be the biggest difference. He's going to have to battle the cowbells, right?
Yes.
Arizona State struggled with that. So Tennessee's going to have to come up with a game plan where it's going to be a lot more of hand signals and so forth instead of yelling, because you're not going to be able to yell over the cowbells. But Dave, I agree with you. The moment against Georgia was huge, and he passed that test. I understand it's different on the road, but I also understand that Georgia was ranked number 3 in the country, whether they deserve it or not. They were ranked number 3. They're a better team than Mississippi State. They're a blue collar team. or I'm sorry, blue chip team, as opposed to Mississippi State. So, yeah, I would be really surprised if he doesn't play well at Mississippi State, which does not have as good of a team or as good of a defense as Georgia.
Caleb, somebody saying that Jimmy's calling you out on some BS. I didn't hear that as much, but there we go. Jimmy's calling Caleb on his BS, and I love it. There we go.
Oh Lord. Well, I mean, I thought we both agreed that Heupel should have gone for the jugular right there.
Yeah, I don't know where the BS was.
And
that
also,
was a much earlier topic in the show.
I can also criticize Heupel somewhat for the Max Gilbert field goal because one, he tried to get cute down there to begin with, and then he settled after the false start penalty. I just think but yeah, I think we would both agree is funny enough. I said this, Jimmy, the other day in one of your thoughts. I said that the reason you go for the jugular, if it's Nick Saban, I actually might back off, but Kirby Smart has a really good habit of pulling things out of his hat in the fourth quarter over the last 2 to 3 years, doesn't he? If you give him a chance.
He does. His team's been outplayed a couple of times, and they pulled it out. They got outplayed a few years ago by Kentucky on the road, and they pulled it out when Stetson Bennett had a horrible game, but they still managed to find a way to win it. And they do have that mentality that if it's close late in the game, they're going to find a way to win the game. And they've been doing that. What is he, 56-5 in the last 4 years, something like that?
Yeah.
And 3 of the losses to Alabama, lost to Ole Miss and Notre Dame. Those are the only other losses that he's got on his docket during that time frame. So, yeah, it's they do have a way of pulling it out. They've got really good players who believe that they're going to win. They know how to win. And in the clutch moments, they are convinced they're going to come through, which, to your point, Caleb, and I agree, that's why Tennessee should have done everything it could to get a 2-score lead.
So we've got a little debate going on in the message board. Derek says, I agree with Caleb today more than Jimmy. So there we go. I don't know exactly what we're talking about. We don't timestamp these things, but
Are you familiar with the initials BS?
I am. Yeah, I got that. Let me ask you this about Joey Aguilar. What has stood out the most to you? We've named a bunch of attributes, positive attributes that he has, but if there was one that stood out the most, I will give you mine because it's the most surprising. Because I thought he would be mature because of his age. I thought he would be a guy who would process quickly. That didn't surprise me. His deep ball touch is one that I did not think we would be comparing to Hendon Hooker. And we have had that conversation on this very show, and others have as well. That, to me, is the most surprising one, the most impressive one of all the attributes that he showcased.
Yeah, I'm going to go a slightly different direction. It's going to be on the first thing that you said that didn't surprise you. I'm surprised that he could operate this offense, which is complex, without spring practice. I'm surprised that he could show the composure, that he could make the right reads, that he could go with the hurry-up offense. I don't think Nico or Joe Milton ever were really good at operating an up-tempo offense because I don't think they were quick decision makers, and I don't think they read the defenses well enough. And I think that's why Tennessee slowed it down. I didn't know Aguilar could do that. So without the benefit of going through the spring, that has caught me a little bit by surprise. Caleb, you mentioned it earlier, and I agree. He ran the up-tempo offense really well, and Tennessee seemed to be more effective doing that. And they didn't just do it after gaining 8 or 12 yards on first down. They were going at it at a quicker pace. And for him to show the composure and the ability and to operate that has impressed me the most. I guess, Dave, I kind of anticipated him being pretty good on the long ball simply because Heupel told me that. We don't get to watch practice. So Heupel's telling me, hey, his ability to throw the long ball and his accuracy over the middle, those are the things I like most about him. But the ability to run that offense without much training, I think that's really impressive.
Good point by Unsung, and we're going to let Jimmy out of here. Aguilar plays with conviction. Nico and Milton played casual. I don't know that I would use the word casual, but I see what you're going for there, Unsung. Maybe casual is the best word. Apathetic, maybe. Lacking conviction, whatever that would be.
I would say, now this is kind of a shot at him. I would say they were not committed to being great quarterbacks. I would say one of them just relied on his arm. I can throw it 140 yards. And the other one was a very talented player that I don't think invested as much in being a great quarterback as he should have. I think Aguilar's invested in trying to be the best quarterback he can be because Tennessee kind of took a chance on him a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And UCLA said, you're not as good as Nico. We want Nico. You don't think that put a chip on that guy's shoulder?
Absolutely.
So, I mean, how do you stumble? You stumble into a power like blue chip job after transferring from Appalachian State last year. This is like the gift of a lifetime for Joey Aguilar.
And I think he's taking advantage of it. He has invested. He's the stories about him going in at 6 a.m. and leaving the complex at 8 p.m. or whatever. He is invested in trying to be a great quarterback, just as some other quarterbacks at Tennessee did. But I don't know that Milton or Nico were as invested in being Tyler Bray was not invested in trying to be a great quarterback. That's another example. So, in my opinion. So I think that's a difference between Aguilar and Milton and Nico.
Jimmy, in this non-linear world, I don't know if your column's up now or it will be up, but if you can tease it going forward, what do you got showcasing the Vols today on Wednesday around 10:30 or so live?
Yeah, and I just sent it in. It's why Aguilar, about why he's better than Nico and how I didn't think that would be the case and why I think Star Thomas needs more touches. I think he's Tennessee's best running back. So that's a factor. And the fast-paced offense, the early scoring, the quick striking early, it's back. They led the nation in first quarter scoring in 2022. Right now, they're averaging 21 points in the first quarter. And that includes Syracuse and Georgia, two Power 5, Power 4 teams. So that's a part of what I've written is those are among the points in the column.
I like it. Yeah, we're not doing blogs. No. Jimmy, great stuff, buddy. We appreciate it. Love you being a bigger part of the team and look forward to more fantastic work from you. And it's a true blessing that you are where you are right now with me personally. So thank you, sir. And we will talk to you on Wednesday.
Dave, thanks for having me. Caleb, thanks for having me. Y'all have a great day.
All right. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com, as we broadcast live from the Ted Russell Ford, Ted Russell Lincoln studios. 2 minutes off the hook sports. Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. banksandjones.com.
Hello, ma'am. I'm here to look at that plumbing problem.
Oh boy. Yep. You're gonna need a whole new sink.
If this toilet is no good, you're gonna need a new one ASAP. You are not gonna believe this. You're all out of milk. Have you heard about our service plan?
I need to call Scott's.
Scott's Plumbing, your trusted neighborhood plumber since 1977.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
This day in Tennessee sports history.
It's cool, baby. It's cool.
Now you know. And knowing is half the battle. The Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun. Off the Hook Sports.
All right, this day in Tennessee sports history. What do we got, Caleb?
Today is the 3-year anniversary of Tennessee beating Akron 63-6, where Cedric Tillman got hurt in the game. And then Tennessee had to turn to Brew McCoy with the gauntlet of their schedule right on the horizon. But they beat Akron 63-6. This is actually not a very notable day in Tennessee games. They have 2 wins.
No, I can tell.
They have 2 wins on their resume on September the 17th.
You just went with the Zips.
Yes, and the other one, funny enough, is 2016 when they beat Ohio 28-19 in a really ugly game.
Yeah.
But, a superb coaching job by Butch Jones helped them pull out.
So that's the only 2 wins that Tennessee has on September 17th?
Yes, most of the time September 17th came around, they were playing Florida.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought about that. That's very true. Do you miss that at all?
Playing Florida in September?
Yes.
I mean, there was a specialty to it, but I have to accept that, I miss a lot of things about rivalries and things like that. I miss Tennessee and Florida being in September. I miss Auburn and LSU being in September. I miss Auburn and I miss Florida and Florida. Well, Florida State's still a thing, but there were times that I thought, you mark the college football season by certain games, and Tennessee, Florida to me marked the start of the gauntlet of a college football season. And
agreed.
Yeah.
Now it felt like that was the beginning of the season, even though it started a couple of weeks earlier. It felt like that was the beginning of the entire football season, the Tennessee Florida game. All right. So Kelsey Pope, was he throwing shade at Joe Milton? Are we making too much out of this? Share what Kelsey Pope said about Tennessee's quarterback and throwing catchable balls.
Yes. So Kelsey Pope was speaking to the media the other day about receivers making catches, and it sounded like he was throwing massive shade at Joe Milton and maybe even Nico Imaliava. The Kelsey Pope quote that we're talking about specifically, and I am trying to pull it up here. Just bear with me, guys. I'm sorry. I lost the quote. I just had it a second ago, but his exact quote, if I can get to it now, is he was asked about Joey Aguilar throwing catchable balls, and he said, quote, "That's a very underrated point. Catching deep balls, a lot of the time, it isn't about arm strength. You just got to give your guys a chance. It's a catchable ball."
Well, and let's face it, would you rather be on the end of a 45-yard pass from Joe Milton or Joey Aguilar? It's probably going to have a little bit more touch on it, right? Same thing for Nico. I think with Nico, though, it wasn't an arm strength issue. It was more along the lines of a reading issue and getting the ball out quickly enough for his receivers to be able to process it. I mean, that's a big part of it as well. So I don't think there's any doubt that Kelsey Pope was throwing shade at the past quarterbacks, because those quarterbacks affect his players' play. And he's probably seen his receivers get some shade for dropping passes when they weren't catchable balls in retrospect. I don't think there's any question. When you have a coach say something to the effect of very underrated point, he is out there to make a point. There is no question in my mind that he was out there to make a point. He had an agenda, and I don't blame him. And right now, it's all well and good. You probably don't want him popping off when things are poorly.
Well, let's be honest. Kelsey Pope is a young coach, rising star in the business. There were a lot of issues with receiver last year because of the injuries. I mean, Dave, you know this. You cover the coaching ranks. Let's be honest. Every assistant coach is gunning for a head coaching job one day, and everything they do is with that goal in mind, isn't it?
For the most part, yes. There are some exceptions. Jim Chaney was one that I didn't think necessarily want to be a head coach, but for the most part, yes, you're right.
Yes, they all want to eventually be head coaches. Kelsey Pope as a rising star is doing that. He was trying to let people know, hey, don't blame the job I did with the receivers for the last 2 years. That's not my fault. That's exactly what he was doing right there, right? More than anything else.
Yes. And I don't have a problem with that either. And I don't think that it needs to be pointed out. I think we knew that, but maybe casual fans didn't. Maybe some athletic director at Boise State who could come hire Kelsey Pope one day didn't know that. But I don't think it needed to be pointed out. But I felt like Kelsey Pope definitely thought it needed to be pointed out.
Yes, and we were working last year, and a lot of people were criticizing Kelsey Pope for some of the receiver moves. And I said from the start, the receivers were a problem last year, but they all were hurt. And I felt that Kelsey Pope was trying to force out guys because it was their last year. They were seniors that just shouldn't have been playing, Brew McCoy and Dante Thornton most notably. And I think some of that was on Josh Heupel too. But yes, we agree. There was, and it's not just the deep ball that's uncatchable. There's the whole, let's call it what it is. There's the old school method of football players saying if you can touch it, you can catch it. But that's not really true with Joe Milton. If you're running a slant pattern and Joe Milton makes a back shoulder throw at 175 miles an hour and it tips off your hands, that's not on the receiver. That's on the quarterback at that point.
I completely agree with that. I 100% agree with that. And some comments from the message board. I noticed when Milton and Nico were up tempo, they were too worried about throwing picks instead of making the play. I think there was some truth to that. I think they lacked conviction as well. David said, imagine if Tyler Bray had a top 40 defense. We win 8-10 all 3 years he played. Probably. But again, that's another guy who lacked conviction as a quarterback, and that resulted in poor decision-making on the field and off of it, Caleb. So those go hand in hand. We make decisions in life. Goodness knows I've made some bad ones. We all have. And you have repercussions for that.
Yes.
Part of that, I'm sorry, is a quarterback making a poor read, maybe because he just doesn't have the processing power upstairs, or he didn't work hard enough at it, Bray's case, and you throw a less catchable ball. I think that's what Kelsey Pope was out to say, and I think he's spot on.
I agree. And for the record, Tyler Bray, now he did miss 4 games in 2011, but Tennessee did have a top 40 defense in 2011. Their offense was just awful. I get 2012 South Sincere, but you can also point out, you're right, off the field, I've kind of come around to this, and you probably have covered teams that are like this more than even I have, but you'll sometimes say this quarterback has other players step up for him well in the game. I started to learn, and I started to realize this with Tom Brady later in his career. Maybe players step up a lot more for Tom Brady because Tom Brady was such a good leader that they wanted to step up more for Tom Brady. Whereas...
Completely agree.
Yeah. So it's like, it looks like Tom Brady has more help, but if Aaron Rodgers, who doesn't seem like a great leader to me, was on that team, they wouldn't play as hard for him, and it wouldn't look like he had the same level of help. And I think you see that a lot with quarterbacks depending on the year. I mean, we all saw this in 2005 with Rick Clausen versus Eric Ainge when that year went down the tube. Rick Clausen, it looked like the players were stepping up a lot more for him than they were Eric Ainge because they wanted Rick Clausen to start the whole time.
Yes. No, that's fact. They wanted Rick Clausen to be the starter. They thought they had enough. They didn't need Eric's more talented arm, more talented being than Rick Clausen. He was just a more talented athlete. They didn't feel like they needed that. It put Eric in a tough position, put the entire team in a tough position, and that's exactly what happened. That team went down the tubes. Tennessee doesn't have that problem this year. As Derek points out, Joey's getting that ball out under 3 seconds. Do y'all remember how long those plays were taking with Nico? Shaking my head. Yeah, go back and look. Maybe we'll do it at some point because it is, you don't have to know football intensely to know there is a big difference with Tennessee's offense, and it starts at the quarterback position and specifically his processing speed.
Definitely. Now, we have to be fair. Joey Aguilar's in his 6th year. Nico was in his first starting and things like that. But there are some people who just have it and they don't have it. We also know that there have been new wrinkles thrown in the offense this year because my understanding, and there's some reporting that's been done on this, Nico was a little bit frustrated, but so was Josh Heupel because the 3-3-5 shell that teams ran on them last year made the offense a lot more difficult to run and hit those deep shots than it was in the past. There weren't as many there, and there weren't as many as Nico thought they were going to be there when he committed to Tennessee. That's why Josh Heupel went and got Seth Littrell in the offseason, and they threw new wrinkles in the offense. And you're seeing a lot of those wrinkles on. There are a lot more quick passes over the middle, a lot more screens and things like that. They are doing a lot more to keep the defenses honest, to say, if you do, and Joey Aguilar is perfect for that, by the way, because he's got more zip on the ball, to say, if you guys take away the deep ball, we will just milk you down the field easily through the air. And it's working a lot better.
Nathaniel says, I'm even coming around on Joey Halsley as a quarterback coach. He has been cleaning up Joey's game too. He has. I mean, across the board, you have to say that this team gets an A+ for their offensive effort. Now, defense, it's another conversation. And I do want to have the conversation probably tomorrow. Can you have an elite defense and elite offense in the same season? I think there's some questions about that. And then speaking of Squirrel White, General Ursus says, I wonder how Squirrel White would have looked with Aguilar as quarterback. Well, he would have looked really good because Squirrel White's really good.
That's true. He's really, really, really fast. And that's perfect with Aguilar.
Yeah, and he's incredibly quick as well. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. We broadcast live from the Ted Russell Ford, Ted Russell Lincoln Studios, tedrussellford.net, tedrusselllincoln.net, Parkside Drive in Kingston Pike. They have your vehicle right there at Ted Russell Ford and Ted Russell Lincoln because they're East Tennessee's largest buying volume dealer. So they have the car you need, whether it's new or used, and it's right there. It's where I purchased my Jeep. I love it. Off the Hook Sports, 2 minutes. Then coming up, Caleb, we'll have the top 5 balls to watch against UAB. Is Tim Banks' defensive play calling a concern? Stat of the day, and Dabo Swinney goes Dabo. 2 minutes off the Hook Sports.
It's a new year, a new day, and Ted Russell Lincoln has an exciting new offer to share. Right now, get a 2024 Lincoln Navigator with 0% APR for 72 months and up to $4,000 in bonus cash. Or drive away in a new 2024 Lincoln Corsair Grand Touring with 0% APR for 60 months and up to $4,500 in bonus cash. It's time to get excited about the ride. Come and see what a luxury car experience truly is at Ted Russell Lincoln, Knoxville.
Hello, ma'am. Here to look at that plumbing problem?
Oh boy. Yep. You're gonna need a whole new sink.
If this toilet is no good, you're gonna need a new one ASAP. You are not gonna believe this. You're all out of milk. Have you heard about our service plan?
I need to call Scott's.
Scott's Plumbing, your trusted neighborhood plumber since 1977.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Ginger Power, the Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun. Represented by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com, Tennessee's trial attorney. From the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studio, East Tennessee's #1 volume and customer service dealer, Ted Russell Ford and tedrusselllincoln.net. Now to the Dave Hooker Show on Off the Hook Sports.
Caleb, set this up as a poll question. Is Tim Banks' defensive play calling a concern? Now, you wrote this question after we talked through the rundown this morning, and you specifically went with his defensive play calling. So do you mean that specifically, or is coaching a potential problem? I noticed you went defensive play calling. Is his defense a problem? Could it be more than just that? Kind of walk me through what was going through your noggin this.
Yeah, I was going to go about I'm talking in general about the defensive play calling, because a lot of people were upset with the way they felt some of the corners were left on islands last Saturday, particularly when he was without his top two cornerbacks. I'm putting this up as a poll question now. Is Tim Banks' defensive play calling a concern? Now, before I knew everything, I want to sit there and say up front, I did not know. Well, you called me, you talked me off saying Tim Banks should be fired after 2022 with the whole Columbia collapse, because they gave up a touchdown in South Carolina had 10 offensive drives and scored touchdowns in 9 of them. I've still never seen that ever happen before. But yeah, but there were a lot of points you brought up that made sense. Now, I've kind of come around to watching Tim Banks, and I think that I understand his strategy now to be complementary to Josh Heupel's offense. A lot of people were very upset last Saturday because he left the cornerbacks on an island a couple of times. Well, let's point a few things out. Before last Saturday, Dave, we all thought Gunnar Stockton was an awful quarterback. Nobody knew he could be that accurate in the moments. So you prepare for what you've seen from a quarterback, and what you prepared for from what you've seen from a quarterback was a guy that you didn't really feel like you had to worry about too much in certain areas. He shocked us all. Kudos to him. Shake his hand after the game. Say, good job. You got us. We didn't see that coming. The other part is Tim Banks is running his defense in a way that's set up with Jermon McCoy and Ricky Gibson III to be healthy. Both are hurt. He's without his top two cornerbacks. And most notably, it's set up for a defensive line that is playing shorthanded. Now, you can say he should adjust or things like that, but when you're playing Georgia in a week, it's, you don't really want to adjust on the fly. You kind of go down with the ship, particularly against a quarterback that had not been good up until that point. And the final part of this is, and now maybe this is on Tim Banks for the recruiting, it's also on Josh Heupel. I just don't think Tennessee's safeties are good. I don't think Andre Turntine and Idris Farouk, I don't think they can play. And that's kind of been a big thing for me for a while. And, it's funny because Idris Farouk, by the way, Andre Turntine comes from Nashville. I've talked about how Nashville recruits can sometimes be overhyped. Well, Idris Farouk comes from St. Francis Academy in Baltimore. Dave, you've covered that school. Playing at that school really overhypes a player's recruiting profile sometimes, doesn't it? More than
yes, I actually thought that playing in Baltimore and DC in general overhyped guys. I would take a guy from below the Nat line in Valdosta, Georgia, before I'd take a guy out of Gilman School in Maryland.
Yeah, no, I actually agree with you. Playing in the DMV area really does overvalue guys to a certain degree. And I take guys more from like Virginia school, a Virginia school not in the DMV. Does that make sense? Than I would Virginia school in the DMV. And
the DMV, for those that don't know, means DC, Maryland, and Virginia. That little area there.
Yes.
There's an area there they call the DMV, which is 100 miles circumference, which a ton of guys come out of, and I've always thought they were overhyped.
Yeah, I agree. Most notably, remember Eddie Goldman, Marvin Austin, those guys. Yeah, no, I totally agree. And so when you throw those things in, Tennessee is very limited because of the misses at safety. And I think they had a freshman cornerback and a transfer from Colorado that up until last Saturday, we thought Colton Hood you could have Colton Island the way you had McCoy Island. Okay, we learned you can't. You're not going to learn that until you have a game against Georgia. So you scheme against Georgia based on what you think you have, and you're not going to – there's no way to know until it's under the lights that you know what you have. But then you go down with the ship. You are banged up on the defensive line. You do what you can. The offense is doing their job. I think we shouldn't be overreacting to how Tim Banks called the Georgia game on Saturday, honestly.
No, and Vols win points this out. Defensive line depth has been an issue, and you really can't replace McCoy. You're right. I mean, that pretty much undermines. Now, you could talk about recruiting and all that sort of thing, and with Rodney Garner, you would think that they would have more defensive line prospects that are signing up to play, but they've had injuries there as well. It's injuries across the board is why this defense isn't elite or isn't even good. And I don't know that changes anytime soon, because when McCoy is able to come back, when Jackson Moy and David Hobbs are able to come back, there's going to be a transition too of getting them into the game and getting them on the field and game ready. So I don't think this defense is going to be good for 3 weeks at best. And I don't know that it's ever going to be elite. I just don't think they have the horses. I think it's obvious that they paid to have the most offensive talent that they could, and they're pretty darn talented there. And they're going to outscore people, which is, at the end of the day, the way Josh Heupel wants to do it and the way his boss, Danny White, wants it done. So that's the way Tennessee's going to win most of its games. And most fans like that as well.
Yeah, exactly. And last year was a very rare one where they had so much depth on the defensive line. And I don't think you're going to see that again. I mean, you're not really going to see that again in college football, how deep Tennessee was able to go with scholarship, potentially NFL caliber defensive linemen last year. So they lost 3 of their main 6 guys from last year, and then 2 of the other 6 have been hurt this year. They couldn't replace all those guys. So I agree. It won't be for 3 weeks. Luckily, Tennessee's bye week, Tennessee has 2. I think one comes a little bit too late. I think they could have used the first one maybe after the UAB game this week, but they do have a bye after Mississippi State. If they can get past UAB and Mississippi State, well, they'll get back to UAB. If they can get past Mississippi State and get to 4-1, get out of September at 4-1, then comes the bye. Then I think they'll be able to get everybody back in the next week. I believe they play. That's not when they play Alabama, is it? When they come off the bye, somebody correct me. They get Arkansas. They get Arkansas at home off the bye. I think that's the perfect game to ease these guys back in, because I think Tennessee's going to torch Arkansas because of what happened last year.
Yep. Vols Win says the play of Hobbs has been disappointing to me this season. I thought he would have a breakout year. Well, he's been pretty banged up.
Yeah, he hasn't even played this year to this point.
Yeah.
So David Hobbs has dealt with some injury issues since he's been at Tennessee. I'm with you. He's been banged up, and you don't really want to force guys back just because you got a big game against Georgia. And so I think you're definitely not going to force them back now. You got UAB and Mississippi State, and again, then you got the bye. And so I think had Tennessee beaten Georgia, we would talk about how things are setting up perfectly for them to get to 5-0 and then go to a bye week. They didn't. Things are tougher now. They're not really playing with house money if they're trying to make the college football playoff. They got to steal some road wins, but that doesn't mean that they won't be in good shape in October. But Tim Banks is, again, Dave, let's just go to how many Tennessee teams have you covered? Even in their heyday, even in the peak 90s, 2000s years, if they're without their top 2 defensive tackles and their top 2 cornerbacks, they're probably losing one of their 2 marquee games a year, aren't they?
Oh, yeah. And that's even before there was more parity in the game. It's even more difficult to replace those guys now. You should have an even bigger fall. No, you lose your top 2 defensive tackles. I guess you got Moy as one of those.
Moy and Hobbs, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I think Moy is a contributor. I don't know that he's one of the top 2, but no, there were seasons in which just had to look at a defense and say this offense is going to have to outscore the other offense. And I think that's going to be one of the seasons.
Yeah, imagine 2001. John Henderson and Howard Haynesworth just are hurt for a game. Neither one of them can play. You're like that. If it's Florida, you're like they're screwed, aren't you? At that point,
it's totally different game. All right, so the Vols to watch for this upcoming week, and it's brought to you by Cooper Mays.
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
Do that. Hit like and subscribe. We appreciate that, as Coop will break it down for us, the 5 balls to watch versus UAB. I want to go first with just across the board. You can't have a hangover in this game. You can't be of the mindset that, we got our daubers down because we lost to Georgia. You have to come out and you have to play at a high level, put UAB away so you can get some guys some rest. This is a building for November type of game. And if you do that and you have that mindset, you'll get some guys some rest. But Give me your guys to watch. We'll go ahead and go first down.
Coop here. First down.
All right. So give me a couple on first down, Caleb. Who are we watching this week against the Blazers?
All right. So we're going to start with the guy Jimmy mentioned, and that is Star Thomas. Now, I want to say that, UAB gives up a lot of yards on the ground, but they also give up a lot of yards through the air. The truth be told, UAB just gives up a lot of yards. They've got a bad defense. So I think you want to get Star Thomas some touches, and you're going to try to use him to really help put the game away. He should, they go 3 deep with their back, Star Thomas, Sean Bishop, Peyton Lewis, but it's very clear right now Star Thomas is the best back. So I think Star Thomas is a guy you want to watch to get a bunch of yards early to help put that game away, and not just in the running game, but I think they might use him on some screen passes and things like that to make some big plays.
I'm surprised Peyton Lewis isn't better. I really thought he would be the guy instead of Star, but I don't think that's the case. All right, so who else we got? Because we got 4 downs, 5 players.
Yes. The next one, and we'll just keep offensively for now, and that'll just be 1 down because the final 3 are defense. But the next one is Braylon Staley. Again, UAB's offense is bad. They get torched by the slot receiver. They had a 5'9" guy go for 177 yards on them. So I think Braylon Staley is the guy that they'll go to more than Chris Brazzell in this game. And, look, you and I know this, Dave. Josh Heupel likes to treat these games like video games. He wants to really pad his offensive player stats in this game. So he's going to try to get Braylon Staley 200 yards, I think, if he can.
Amen.
Cooper Mays here. Second down.
All right, second down.
All right, so second down is this. Ty Redmond. Ty Redmond, the cornerback, really got picked on last Saturday. He's a true freshman. They put a lot of pressure on him to start because of the injuries. They're still going to have him play. UAB, for all of its flaws, can score the ball. They are an offensive-oriented team. Ironic, given the fact that their head coach is Trent Dilfer, who won a Super Bowl with the most defensive-oriented team of all time. But they are an all-offense, no-defense team. And they will throw the ball a lot. I believe John Kitna's son is their quarterback.
Yes.
And they are going to throw it all over the field. They're going to pick on Ty Redmond as much as they possibly can. He'd better be ready for this one.
All right. Moving forward, Coop.
Tennessee center Cooper Mays here. Third down.
All right. What ball to watch against UAB? The Blazers.
Third down is Bryson Eason, the one returning key defensive tackle that actually has been productive in the middle because he's been able to play. Tennessee, UAB, they throw it all over the field with Kitna, but they do actually run the ball well. And you got to snuff out the run to start everything. So Bryson Eason is going to be crucial for Tennessee.
No, I agree with that. He hasn't gotten enough play just in covering the team in general. I think he's played exceptionally well, considering he's probably playing more snaps than he intended because they don't have a rotation. So he's not fresh most of the time. Coop?
All SEC center Cooper Mays here. Fourth down.
All right, fourth down. Some money down, Caleb. What do we got?
And the most important player, because he's got a lot to prove, because I had him as a preseason potential All-American, and he has let all of us down to this point. I am speaking, of course, of one young Arian Carter, who has, we thought he was the next Al Wilson, maybe at least Kevin Burnett. He has been nothing short of a bust so far this year for Tennessee through 3 games, and looks nothing like we thought he'd be. And he was a liability. The linebackers were a problem for Tennessee last week. That's got to get better.
And I'm not sure that outside of Arian Carter, they have anyone that can get that significantly better at linebacker.
You would think Jeremiah Thielander, who was built for this role and just had to develop, would be able to, but he hasn't. And it's been a problem. And so, but yeah, they've both been an issue. But Arian Carter, we talked about his issues in coverage last year, and they still exist now. What the heck was he doing in the offseason? Honestly, I hear a lot of good things about him. I've heard he's a great leader. I haven't heard any negative things about him in the locker room. He's the guy you want in your locker room. But it's just, I don't know. Something's off with Arian Carter.
And it's not just that he gets beaten coverage from time to time. You could live with that, but you would expect him to make plays on the other side of the line of scrimmage, right?
Totally agree. 1,000%.
I mean, I can give you that, but you got to give me that. That makes sense. I used that about 3 times, that sentence.
Yeah.
There we go. That's 5 Balls to Watch, and it's brought to you by Ted Russell Ford and TedRussellLincoln.net, East Tennessee's largest volume dealer. They have your vehicle right there. Ted Russell Ford and Ted Russell Lincoln on Parkside Drive and Kingston Pike.
A beacon of hope in a world of high prices. Look to the skies, Knoxville. Super savings is here. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 volume Ford dealer.
Right now, get 0% APR, 0 down, and 0 payments for 90 days on select models, plus 2 years complimentary maintenance.
Come see the super dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford location, Parkside Drive, or Kingston Pike.
Stat of the day. They never lie. Or do they? Stat of the day. The Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun. Off the Hook Sports.
Stat of the day, Caleb, what do you got?
Tennessee faces UAB this weekend. They are 5-0 all time against UAB. Interestingly enough, the first time they played them, Dave, was 1998. The year they won the national title, where Fulmer was very upset that they had to leave their starters in late in the game because of the BCS margin of victory rule. The next time they played them was to open the 2005 season, where Tennessee was number 3 and Tennessee won 17-10. Remember that hideous noon Saturday game that you covered?
Yes.
And Phil Fulmer, I will never forget him after that game. He basically was trying to make UAB out to be a borderline SEC middle of the pack team with the way he was talking them up.
And they weren't.
No, they weren't. They finished last in the Conference USA that year.
Now, UAB, I wonder what Alabama thinks about UAB playing SEC teams outside of Alabama, because it could help Tennessee recruit the Birmingham area, which is pretty good in terms of football talent. I wouldn't think the University of Alabama would be that crazy about them playing Tennessee. Thoughts?
Well, they wouldn't. And there's a hostile relationship because Bear Bryant Jr., who was on the Alabama university system board, basically strong-armed UAB shutting down its football program in 2014 for no reason whatsoever. And this comes down to some old Gene Bartow, Bear Bryant beef from when Gene Bartow built UAB's basketball program up in the 70s and 80s and was their athletic director. There were some major feuds between them and Bryant Jr. to settle a score with UAB, strong-armed the whole university system to shut down the football program. It came back a few years later. Look, the thing about UAB that a lot of people don't know with North Alabama and the Birmingham area, and we joke about this because Jeremy Pruitt it's a different story, but Dave, you've covered that area, I'm sure, a good bit. The coaching in North Alabama high school football is superb. It's got some of the best coaches in the country by far.
Oh, agree.
Yeah, and I think that allows UAB to get some decent talent to field some really good teams at times for the level of football they play at. And it's very underrated. It's a very underrated small football program, I guess you could say. Group 5 program.
Yeah, the Hoover area, you've got a lot of schools there that have excelled for a number of years. It's a really big deal in that North Birmingham area. In terms of the coverage of it that it receives, it's just a whole different level of high school football than what a lot of us are used to, me being a native East Tennessean. It's just their passion for high school football is immense. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. Coming up, Dabo going Dabo. And while this may not be Joey Aguilar's last season, the show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com, as we broadcast live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln studios, tedrussellford.net, tedrusselllincoln.net, East Tennessee's largest volume dealer. They have your vehicle either at Parkside Drive or Kingston Pike. Off the Hook Sport.
A beacon of hope in a world of high prices. Look to the skies, Knoxville. Super savings is here. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 volume Ford dealer.
Right now, get 0% APR, 0 down, and 0 payments for 90 days on select models, plus 2 years complimentary maintenance.
Come see the super dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford location, Parkside Drive, or Kingston Pike.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Newbert Collision Center.
Are you ready to get strong? At NFC, we offer top-notch weight training and functional fitness, so you can build strength and improve your performance. Join today at nfc1.com or stop by any one of our 7 East Tennessee locations.
Frank, like the name, but serious or something. The Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun, represented by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com, Tennessee's trial attorney. From the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studio, East Tennessee's #1 volume and customer service dealer, Ted Russell Ford and TedRussellLincoln.net. Now to the Dave Hooker Show on Off the Hook Sports.
I got a reason you should root for Vanderbilt and their quarterback, Diego Pavia. Because Diego Pavia is trying to get another year of eligibility. Caleb, it popped up on our message board. What would that mean for Joey Aguilar? Joey Aguilar is not, in my opinion, an elite NFL quarterback prospect. It could mean another year for Joey Aguilar at Tennessee. Question is, would Tennessee want him back, or would they want to upgrade the quarterback position as they thought they were doing with Nico and Joe Milton over Hendon Hooker? I say that in jest somewhat, poking fun, I would say, at Tennessee's coaching staff, because you should definitely want Joey Aguilar back. So what are you hearing about Vanderbilt and Diego Pavia's opportunity to get another year? How realistic is that?
So Pete Nakos of On3 has reported that Diego Pavia is setting the stage to challenge for a potential 7th year of eligibility. The quarterback's motion for a preliminary injunction was granted in December, allowing him to play a 6th year. He said that his argument was that the NCAA's redshirt rule involving junior college eligibility violates antitrust law. The NCAA then issued a blanket waiver for 2025-26 that gave an extra year to athletes who previously competed at a non-NCAA school for 1 or more years, which would fall under the ruling of Pavia. And now in a hearing Tuesday in the U.S. Court of Appeals 6th Circuit, his attorney said that unless the rules are found to be subject to antitrust, they're going to stack on a challenge to the redshirt rule and ask for an injunction so Pavia can play in 2026, according to sports law professor Sam Ehrlich. Pavia retweeted the story and said, "This is my last year." But it could be joking, we don't know. But it could just be a principle of the attorney trying to file a lawsuit. Now, there's a lot to work out here. Theoretically, the NCAA could... I don't know where this is going to land. The NCAA has every right to limit the number of years you can play college football. That's not an antitrust violation. There's a lot of places that, I mean, there's temp jobs all over the country, all over the world. Temp jobs happen. That's how things work. They could literally say, this is a temp job, you're a temp contractor. They also have a right to set their own standards over what falls under the umbrella of a temp job or temp contractor. They didn't want the junior college lawsuit issued where they were trying to say that, oh, it shouldn't count against the eligibility if we played junior college and got a red shirt. So they issued some blanket waiver in 2025-26 to kind of do what the NCAA does, which is kick the can down the road. I don't think the NCAA, though, would lose this case because now they're still sticking with red shirting as an antitrust violation. I think the NCAA has every right to set standards for how many years you can play college football and make exceptions to those standards. The actual temp standard is 4 years. The redshirt just gives you a 5th year. That doesn't mean that that you're entitled to a 5th year at all, honestly. So I don't really think that would Tennessee want Joey Aguilar back. I'm sure they would, given what he's doing. But we know Josh Heupel. We talked about in the first segment how he falls in love with the elite quarterbacks, and Faison Brandon could be a superstar. He's the most highly touted quarterback in the 2026 class. And Heupel wants an open competition with Brandon, George McIntyre, and Jake Merklinger next spring. That's what he's been looking forward to.
I agree. But based on Brandon sitting a year, George McIntyre sitting a year, I mean, there's something to be said for that, right? I mean,
Merklinger will hit the portal. He'll be out.
Yeah, no question. Travis says 1 more year of Aguilar. And listen, you do have to, at some point, we have to be realistic and look at Aguilar and say, he is a great story right now. He's going to come back to earth in some shape or fashion, right? He's probably not going to finish the Heisman race 5th as he was projected by BetMGM. He's probably not going to be in New York. Probably not. So he's going to come back to earth. And then at some point, you do want an elite quarterback prospect. I get what Josh Heupel was trying to do with Nico. He just didn't have that. Nico didn't have that. And I get what he was trying to do with Joe Milton. I defended him for that. But Joe Milton didn't have that in him. He had accuracy issues. Nico had maturity issues. It just, he's trying to fit a square peg into a round hole when he's got a round player in Joey Aguilar.
I agree. I don't think this lawsuit's going to hit. Joey Aguilar's not going to be allowed to play next year. I can tell you that straight up front. He won't be allowed to play next year.
See, I disagree. I think that he will be.
They're not going to sit there. What are they going to do? Say there's no limitations and you can play college football for as long as you want? I mean, that's what they would be doing with this JUCO ruling if they did that. I mean, and Steve has a great point to it. I want to point it out. He's like, do JUCO credits count towards a degree? Yeah, they do. I mean, you can count your junior college credits towards a degree. How does that not count against your eligibility playing for the NCAA? Now, they might reach a compromise that might get Joey Aguilar back that says a year of junior college counts as half a year of eligibility for the NCAA or something like that. Maybe they'll do that. But at the end of the day, guys, you can't sit up there and say that junior college shouldn't count towards eligibility in college football. I think that's really pushing the boundaries of eligibility rules in college football and whether or not it's an antitrust. I don't think eligibility limits are antitrust violations in college football. I just don't. The NCAA can, in that regard, they can do whatever they want, provided they're not being discriminatory, to say that we're going to let you play this many years and this is how many years of eligibility you have, period, end of story. They have a right to do that. There's no antitrust law violating that at all.
Yeah, Caleb, I don't know. I've seen so much change in college football. I think that I think there's a real chance that this could be open-ended, or you could have 7 to play 6 or 6 to play 6.
If it's open-ended, it's because the NCAA is kicking the can down the road, which they might do. I wouldn't put it past them to just kick the can down the road. But the NCAA's case is airtight in this one. And I've been pretty consistent on every single lawsuit on who I thought would win or lose and what I think would happen. And I'm telling you guys right now, like I said, this House settlement in 2020 that happened in the summer, that's not going to hold. Someone's going to challenge that, and that someone is going to win. People have already done it. And but the NCAA's case on this specifically is airtight. They have every single right to set their own standards for eligibility in terms of how many years you can play. And there's no antitrust law about that.
I don't know, Caleb. I I've thought aloud, and I think we've discussed it. Could you see a player coming back to college football after getting cut by an NFL team and not having a home in the NFL? I wouldn't rule that out. Right now, it seems like the NCAA loses in court or they just don't even fight it. And that to me has set a precedent that people are going to keep picking at you and they're going to win.
There's a better chance of what you said happening than junior college not counting against your eligibility. What you said happening, if a player leaves after their junior year and they have a year of eligibility left and they get cut, I do think they might have an argument to go back to college. There is an antitrust law at that point. There is no argument whatsoever. There's no law in the book. Again, the NCAA keeps losing, Dave, because they have a bunch of regulations that violate the law. Eligibility limits are not one of the regulations that violate the law. I mean, they don't violate the law at all. I mean, you're allowed. I mean, Dave, you've been in business. You're allowed to hire somebody and say, I'm only hiring you for this many years, right? Or this many months. You're allowed to do that.
Yes, but if Vanderbilt wants Pavia back or Tennessee wants Aguilar back, then you've got two parties saying theoretically that they want to stay linked up together.
Yes, but Vanderbilt and Tennessee have agreed to play within the confines of the NCAA regulations. And so the NCAA can say, look, you guys, what they could say is you guys are contractors. We're allowed to have contractors and put time limits on how long a contractor can collect money. I mean, they can do that. And so I don't see any way that there's no antitrust violation with this one specifically. Maybe I'll be wrong on this, but I don't see where the antitrust violation is there. Because again, if Diego Pavia were to win this lawsuit, then all temp jobs all across the world would be banned. There would never be any more construction contracts given out because that's a temp job. So I mean, like it's what we're talking about here is literally all temp jobs and all contracting jobs shutting down across the country. At which point, like that's not feasible. That's what they're arguing here in this case.
Adam says the NCAA is going to keep trying to screw it up, confuse everyone until they can force everyone into a union, then they can extort players through a union. I agree with Adam on that. I think they are just trying to confuse people, and you use the term kick the can down the road, which just means postponing a decision. And yes, I believe that is what the NCAA has planned. I mean, surely they have some leadership. They can't be this inept, I wouldn't think. Adam also says unions and socialism is the way to oppress the working class. Always start off as a promise of improvement. Then the members find out they gave up their rights. I think that Adam and I have some similar political views, not to get too political. Caleb, anything else on the Aguilar topic?
Well, unions operate on it depends on the union and the place, because unions, what they do is, for instance, let's take the NBA, the players union in the NBA. The players are getting more money as a whole because there's a union. LeBron has been making less money because of it. Does that make sense? Yes. Like, that's how a union works, is to secure more for everybody. But yes, the person at the top is going to make less. But at the same time, the theory is, okay, LeBron's making less money. So what? LeBron's made a lot of freaking money in his career. So, I mean,
yeah, he's not okay.
Yeah. And I mean, that's why when wrestling tried to unionize in the 1980s, Hulk Hogan ratted out Jesse Ventura for trying to unionize the wrestlers, because all the wrestlers were vastly underpaid, but Hulk Hogan himself was underpaid, was way overpaid. And he was making way more than he would if the wrestlers unionized. With college football, you would see the same thing. If there was a players union in college football, you wouldn't see Nico Iamaleava getting, or you wouldn't see Lenora Sellers getting $8 million or whatever. I don't know if somebody's making $8 million, but you wouldn't see a player getting $8 million and then an offensive lineman only getting $10,000. That gap would be narrowed significantly, but there would be more money paid out to the players overall if that happened.
I think there would be less overall.
Not with the union. I think because the union could negotiate things in court and things like that. But again, the union's irrelevant because the money that's really being thrown around is not what the players are getting paid by the school as employees. It's what they're getting paid by third parties in the NIL market.
Right.
That's not going anywhere.
No. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. Ted Russell, Ford Lincoln Studios. TedRussellFord.net, TedRussellLincoln.net. Do we want to get Dabo in here? I thought we were moving on. We got a little Dabo action.
Yeah, a little bit. I thought we might want to talk about a little Dabo because we saw Dabo's rant, and it is I think hilarious.
Okay,
honestly.
let's run some Dabo at Clemson, who's been criticized for his team losing to Georgia Tech and starting the season 1-2, and just coming back to earth a little bit. Let's get to Dabo. It is pretty classic.
Yeah, here is Dabo Swinney asked about Clemson struggling, and here's what he had to say.
If they want me gone, if they tired of winning, they can send me on their way because that's all we've done is win. So if they tired of winning, we've won this league 8 out of the last 10 years. Is that not good? I'm just asking. Is that good? I don't know if that's good or not. To win your league 8 out of 10 years, to go to the playoffs 7 out of 10 years, to be in 4 national championships, win it twice. Yeah, we're a little down right now. Take your shots, but I got a long memory in case y'all don't know. We'll be all right. We'll bounce back. This is a program built to last, always has been, always will be. And I would just say if you give up on us if you don't believe in us because we've lost 2 games down to the last straight and you didn't believe in us anyway, so it don't matter. You wasn't all in anyway. If you're all in, you burn the ships, man. There ain't no exit strategy. Like, you're freaking all in. And hey, listen, I mean, if Clemson's tired of winning, they send me on my way, but I'm gonna go somewhere else and coach. I ain't going to the beach. Hell, I'm 55. I got a long way to go. Y'all gonna have to deal with me for a while. I got a long way to go. I'm just getting going. I'm just now good enough to be a head coach.
Okay, so Dabo is talking to the media in kind of a sanctimonious way, like you all should be on board. That's not what the media is supposed to do. That's silly. But I will say this. I agree with him. Listen, if you've got a Dabo Swinney, you need to hold on to a Dabo Swinney. And Caleb, you might disagree with this. We didn't talk about it a lot before the show because I wanted it to be fresh, but I agree with him. I mean, what he's done at Clemson, I didn't think could ever be done. He has won the conference title 8 out of 10 years. They've won 2 national championships. I didn't think that could ever be done. If you've got Dabo Swinney, you need to keep Dabo Swinney.
I 1,000% agree with you.
Wow. Okay.
Like, I can't stress how much I agree with you on this. Dabo Swinney has earned the right, particularly at Clemson, to stay there as long as he wants. Dabo Swinney is to Clemson. Let's just be honest, Dave. He is to Clemson what Bobby Bowden was to Florida State. I mean, he's that big of a deal. They have the same number of national championships. You guys may not know that. Dabo Swinney and Bobby Bowden both have 2 national titles on their resume. And Dabo Swinney could get more as time goes on. What he's done at Clemson is incredible. I've always said this, and I used to say this about Nick Saban rants. You know, we're in the media. I don't like being berated or belittled by coaches. I really don't. I don't mind it if the coach is giving an honest answer, though, a true answer. I do mind it when they're trying to lie to you and pretend that you're asking an unfair question. Like when Derek Dooley got on to you because you were talking to him about players being kicked out of the practice field.
Right.
You know, like you were asking the right question and Derek Dooley had no right to go off on you when you were asking that question. But, you know, and Nick Saban did that a lot too. But right there, Dabo, he's absolutely right. He could just be, look at what this program was before I got here. It's still better than that. And I mean, I have no problem with what he said. I totally side with him going on that rant.
I remember I covered a camp in Clemson pre-Dabo, and they had monument markers like when somebody dies, got grave markers.
Yeah.
And they had those markers in their practice facility for the top 10 teams they had beaten. And there were only like 4 or 5 or 6. Now, I doubt they even do that tradition anymore. It was kind of silly at the time, I thought, but they would have a ton. They've probably got more top 10 wins in Dabo's time there than their previous school history. And I don't think it's probably even close. I would say twice as much. So no, I'm with you. And here's the other thing too. If Clemson doesn't like him, then Tennessee should take a look at him. I know people are high on Josh Heupel right now, but you've got a coach that's proven that at a lesser program like Clemson that you can win a national title, you take him. If you're Alabama and Kalen DeBoer doesn't work out, you take Dabo Swinney. I mean, he is a proven coach, and to me, that means a lot. I didn't realize he was just 55, but he's still young too. I mean, he's got a good 10 years ahead of him. If they don't like it, they can go kick rocks.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think he has every right to say that. And you're right, there's a lot of schools that would hire Dabo. I'll be the first to say, do I think there could be some issues with the game passing Dabo by a little bit to this point and Clemson being done as a program? Yes.
Yes, I do too.
Yeah. That does not mean that you should get rid of Dabo. Dabo has done too good of a job there. And you put him in the right program, he'll still do well, honestly. And people talk about all the time that Dabo benefited because Derek points this out. And you're right, by the way, Derek, that Dabo benefited from Tennessee's misgivings and mistakes and issues. That's somewhat true. I would argue Tennessee had some of those issues, though, because Dabo was poaching their recruits and doing such a good job of getting them out of Tennessee, honestly.
Well, no, and Nathaniel brings those players, and we're talking about T. Higgins and Amari Rogers. Those players didn't go to Tennessee because Tennessee's inept coaching staff, and certainly that benefited Clemson. But Clemson took advantage of those players' abilities. Nathaniel brings up, Bama with the Dabo. I'd be worried more worries than DeBoer. I totally agree. I think you're practically guaranteeing a national championship at that point. If you get 10 years out of Dabo, you hire him tomorrow, you fire Caleb DeBoer, and you send him down the road. I think you're with those facilities, with that in-state talent, with all they have, you're guaranteeing a championship at some point. I don't think you have that with DeBoer. I don't think you're guaranteeing the championship. And I know you like him a little bit more than I do.
Well, you're particularly guaranteeing one with the credibility Dabo has. And I've said this before, Dave. 2/3 of recruiting is the infrastructure of the program and the credibility of the head coach more than the actual recruiting efforts. Why did Nick Saban get #1 recruiting classes at Alabama right when he got there? Yes, he's a good recruiter, but it's because Alabama hired a coach who won a national title at another school. It was pretty much that simple. So players were looking to go play for him, right? Like, Nick Saban wasn't going out recruiting players. They were asking to play for him, weren't they, when Alabama hired him?
No, you're right.
And, yeah, Dabo would get the same treatment. If Dabo went to Alabama, I don't think he'd have to work that hard to recruit. I think players would line up to want to go play for him.
Here's the other thing, too. He's done it clean. He hasn't had off-field issues.
Never.
He has, I think, fallen behind the NIL times a little bit. And we'll see if he can keep that up. But that's my one question. But yeah, if Clemson doesn't like it, he's going to have suitors. There's no question about it.
And Nathaniel Cam actually has that's a good question, Nathaniel. I wonder that because he says that's almost as bad as Saban coming back. Would you rather, if you're a Tennessee fan, what worries you more? Alabama bringing back Nick Saban or Alabama hiring Dabo Swinney? Both are scary.
I will tell you something somebody very close to Nick Saban told me, and that he does want to return to coaching. And it could be next year.
So when that was floated in the summer, that wasn't a lie, basically, is what you're saying.
No. Now, I don't know that it's Alabama. I'm not saying he goes back to Alabama, but I think that he thinks that he maybe hung it up soon. And let's not forget, he won a championship at LSU as well. So not like for those young ones out there, he wasn't just an Alabama coach like Paul Bear Bryant. You think of him as just being an Alabama coach, even though he coached Kentucky. But Saban's coached at other places. He made the move, too, to go to the NFL from LSU. And I just think that
And if Miami had a competent doctor, Saban might still be with the Dolphins.
Yep.
For those who don't know that.
Drew Brees.
Yep, the doctors did not clear Drew Brees. Saban wanted Drew Brees. He was forced to settle on Dante Culpepper.
That didn't work out. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. We broadcast live at 10 a.m. from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studios, tedrussellford.net, tedrusselllincoln.net, East Tennessee's largest volume dealer. They have your vehicle at either location on Parkside Drive or you can check them out on Kingston Pike as well. Caleb Calhoun, I'm Dave Hooker, Off the Hook Sports.